Hello everyone! Back again with Film Recap. In this video, I'm going to recap one of the horror slasher films from 2025, titled I Know What You Did Last Summer. Before we get to the storyline, I'd like to wish everyone a happy and great day. Without further ado, let's get straight to the storyline. The movie opens with a woman named Ava, who has just returned to her childhood home in Southport. After getting ready, she excitedly heads off to attend the engagement party of her high school friends, Danica and Teddy. Upon her arrival, Ava and Danica are thrilled to reunite after a long time, and we soon learn that Ava's ex, Milo, is also at the party. That evening, after the celebration, Ava, Danica, Milo, and Teddy hang out together and catch up on their lives. Danica then urges Ava and Milo to move back to Southport, but both of them are unwilling to give up the lives they've built. The group then decides to head to a summit to watch the breathtaking 4th of July fireworks. But before they can leave, they come across Stevie, another high school friend who was once a member of their gang. It turns out that after her father ran off with her college fund, Stevie slowly drifted away from everyone. The group feels sorry for her and invites her to join them in watching the fireworks. Stevie is initially hesitant because she's actually on duty, but when a coworker urges her to go, she eventually agrees. Next, the 5 of them get into a vehicle and set off to make the night unforgettable. After driving for a while, they find a perfect spot to watch the fireworks and pull over. However, a drunk Teddy quickly becomes annoying, standing in the middle of the road and goofing around. A car soon approaches in the distance, and the others yell at him to move, but Teddy doesn't seem to care. Fortunately, Milo pulls him out of the way at the last moment. Danica begins scolding him, but Teddy is thrilled by his reckless stunt and is still in the middle of the road. And then all of a sudden, the driver avoids Teddy but crashes into the fence, leaving the vehicle dangling dangerously above jagged rocks. The group begins to panic upon seeing this, and Teddy finally comes to his senses. He desperately tries to save the driver, while the rest of the group struggles to hold onto the truck. But unfortunately, the vehicle slips from their grasp and plummets to the rocks below with a brutal crash, leaving the group frozen in horror. They begin panicking and debating what to do, during which Teddy manages to call the cops. He then tells the group they need to leave immediately, but Ava refuses since she believes the driver is still alive and that they must go down to help. When Teddy assures her that they're just heading to the station, she eventually agrees to leave with them. However, instead of taking them to the police station, Teddy takes the group to his house instead. He warns them that his father is powerful and will handle everything, but they must swear to never tell a soul what happened tonight. Everyone agrees, except Ava, so Danica tries to convince her by warning that the truth could destroy their entire lives. In the end, Ava reluctantly agrees and walks out with tears streaming down her face. The scene then cuts to a year later, where we see Ava returning to the town once again. At the airport, she crosses paths with a woman named Tyler and hooks up with her. Afterward, Tyler asks for a ride to Southport since she's heading there too, and Ava agrees without hesitation. Later, Milo arrives to pick up Ava, and during the drive, he asks Tyler about her reasons for being. She responds that she hosts a true crime podcast and has come to Southport to record an episode about the horrific massacre that shook the town in 1997. Shortly after, Milo and Ava arrive at Danica's bridal shower, where Stevie is also present. It turns out that last year's events have brought Danica and Stevie extremely close, which surprises Ava. The guests then gather around Danica, who eagerly begins opening each gift one by one. However, at one point, she suddenly comes across a gift card that says, "I know what you did last summer," which scares the life out of her. She nervously asks who gave the card, but no one responds. Just then, Danica's fiancé copyright, Wyatt, approaches her, revealing that she and Teddy are not together anymore. Later, Danica shows the card to her friends in private and suspects Teddy sent it out of resentment for her wedding. It turns out Teddy was traumatized by last year's events, and he went insane and alcoholic. Milo doesn't think it's Teddy and wonders if it could be someone connected to the victim, Sam Cooper. But Stevie reveals she did some digging and found out Sam didn't have any family or relatives. Afterward, Milo, Stevie, and Ava approach Teddy, who spends his days drinking heavily on his boat. They show him the threatening card that Danica received and ask if he's behind it. But he firmly denies any involvement in such a stupid act and says it's Danica's problem if she's the only one receiving it. That night, Danica feels extremely anxious, so she soaks herself in the bathtub while listening to meditation on her headphones. Meanwhile, Wyatt, who is downstairs, suddenly notices the light outside turn on by itself, which confuses him. He goes to check, but there's no one and the light mysteriously turns off again. And then all of a sudden, the injured man then collapses to the ground while screaming, but Danica can't hear anything because of her headphones. After an immense struggle, Wyatt somehow manages to land on his feet. But it isn't long before he is viciously attacked again by the harpoon in his abdomen. The poor guy thinks it's a robbery and tells the attacker to take anything they want. We then see the attacker, who's dressed in a black raincoat with a hidden face and holding a large hook to deliver the final blow without any mercy. Shortly after, Danica arrives downstairs, where she shockingly comes across Wyatt's lifeless body and a phrase that says you can't erase the past. Later, we see her at the police station, where her friends show up to comfort her. Danica is overwhelmed with guilt since she didn't hear his scream or help him, even though she was home. At this moment, Teddy also arrives with his father, Grant, who assures Danica that he will assign a patrol to keep watch over her house. The next day, the group reunites to try and understand why Wyatt was killed since he had nothing to do with the accident from last year. Milo then suspects Ava's new friend, Tyler, who hosts a true crime podcast and is here to investigate the 1997 murders. They listen to her podcast and discover that in 1997, a fisherman killed a group of teenagers who were trying to get away with murder. It turns out the fisherman sliced them all one by one with his deadly hook, and it all began with an anonymous note. Hearing this, the group becomes even more suspicious due to the many similarities between the current situation and the 1997 massacre. Teddy, on the other hand, warns them that they won't find much information because his father, a powerful property developer, has wiped all of the case files to hide the truth from his investor. With no other choice, Ava goes to meet with Tyler, who invites her to help with the investigation of the original massacre. They soon arrive at Bayside House, which was the location of one of the fishermen's heinous attacks. Tyler reveals that back then, a woman named Julie James found a warning note, after which the killings began. When asked what was in the note, Tyler responds, "I know what you did last summer," which brings back haunting memories for Ava. Tyler then asks her to wait for a while as she goes to check upstairs. Here, Ava grows increasingly suspicious of this woman and even updates her friends about her location. But moments later, she notices the killer fisherman standing right in front of her. She thinks it's Tyler, but then she notices Tyler is still upstairs and urgently yells at her to run. Following this, the fisherman begins attacking Ava while Tyler tries to run away, but the door gets jammed. Ava somehow manages to hurt the killer and then locks herself in a room. But when she emerges moments later, she cannot find the fisherman and instead encounters Tyler, who is shaken. And then this happens. A massive cage traps Ava, so she urges Tyler to seek help, and the latter rushes to manually operate the elevator to find another way out. But unfortunately, she's approached by the fisherman who attempts to attack her. Meanwhile, Ava notices that Stevie saw her message and has arrived outside, but unfortunately, she can't get in as all the doors are locked. Soon, Tyler escapes the fisherman's grasp and arrives at another floor. But before she can get away, the fisherman suddenly reappears and launches a brutal attack with his hook, just as Ava breaks free from the cage. Tyler uses her last remaining strength to rip off the killer's hood, and she gasps in shock as she recognizes the face. At the same time, Ava manages to escape the house and reunites with Stevie outside, right when they spot Tyler hanging by the neck out the window, barking panic among the onlookers. The police soon arrive, and a shaken Ava is comforted by her friends. The next day, Ava goes to meet Julie, who now lives in another town and teaches at a university. She frantically tells Julie about what's happening in Southport and begs for her help. Julie thinks it's a joke at first, but when she realizes it's really serious, she invites Ava to her home. The young woman shares everything from the accident to the anonymous note to the series of massacres. Ava invites her to Southport to help them, but Julie claims she promised herself never to go back there again. She then advises Ava that whoever is doing this has a personal agenda, and the only way to stop it is to find the killer before they find her. In the following scene, Stevie leads the group to Ray, another 1997 massacre survivor, who also happens to be her boss. Ava is shocked to learn that Ray is actually Julie's ex-husband, but they hate each other now. The group explains everything to him, and Ray suggests investigating exactly who owned the truck that went off the cliff since, according to the report, Sam had stolen the vehicle. Next, the group heads to a junkyard where Sam's truck was taken after the accident. They meet the manager there, who reveals the truck belonged to their local pastor, Judah Gillespie. That night, the group stays at Teddy's house for safety, except Stevie, who has to work the night shift. Teddy and Danica then end up cuddling together, while Milo and Ava retreat to the guest room. A while later, Milo steps outside to grab his charger from the car, but when he returns, the door is suddenly locked. He calls out for Ava, but before she can hear him, the fisherman wraps a rope around Milo's neck, causing the poor guy to gasp for air. The next day, Ava and Danica arrive at a church to look for Pastor Judah. But an employee tells them he's not here, so Danica requests to use the restroom and sneaks into the pastor's office. Shortly after, the pastor shows up and engages in a conversation with Ava. When the employee brings up Sam's death last year, the pastor gets uncomfortable and tries to avoid the topic. Danica, meanwhile, discovers a book in his office containing a photo of Sam and the pastor, revealing that they were very close. Up next, the girls head to the police station and inform an officer that Pastor Judah is hiding something, and they must talk to him. But the officer quickly alerts Grant about this, and they decide to hold the girls overnight in a cell for being hysterical. They're not allowed to leave the room, and their phones are also confiscated. Teddy is drinking alone and watching fireworks since it's the 4th of July. But he soon notices his electric gates are malfunctioning and rushes to check the problem. Unfortunately, this turns out to be a mistake, as the fisherman, who had been lurking nearby, immediately strikes him. The two get into an intense fight, during which a badly injured manages to knock the killer down and run away. He then makes a desperate attempt to get to the house and alert his family, but his injuries slow him down. Unfortunately for him, the fisherman has regained his strength by this point and drags him into the darkness. Moments later, Grant hears the doorbell ring, and when he opens the door, he's horrified to see his son bloodied and barely clinging to life. But the fisherman hiding nearby immediately drives the hook through his throat and tragically ends his life as well. The next morning, at the police station, the officers are seen panicking, and the girls are finally allowed to leave. They exit the building and notice a crowd of people has gathered outside. We then see a disturbing scene where Teddy and Grant's bodies hang in the middle of town, on display for everyone to see. Danica is so horrified by this, and Ray advises the girls to leave Southport immediately for their safety, which they agree to. But just then, they notice Milo's car nearby, but they see his lifeless body lying in the back seat. Ava completely breaks down, but her friends quickly pull her away. Stevie then leads the girls to a boat so they can get the hell out of this cursed town. Meanwhile, the officers arrive at the church to arrest Pastor Judah, only to be met with a horrifying sight. It turns out the man has already been murdered, his body left kneeling, and his eyes cruelly gouged out. Here, the police come across a shocking photo from Pastor Judah's belonging. The picture shows Pastor Judah with Sam, and in a shocking twist, Stevie is standing right beside Sam, smiling warmly as she embraces him. The scene then returns to the boat, where the fisherman suddenly appears and tries to attack Danica. Here, the girls' faces freeze in horror as the killer turns out to be none other than Stevie. They demand to know why she did this, and Stevie explains that she has held a grudge against the group for years, ever since they abandoned her when her father left town. She became addicted to drugs and went to rehab, where she met Sam, who helped her cope with her trauma. On the night of the accident, Sam feared Stevie would relapse, so he took Pastor Judah's truck to find her. Stevie then reveals she never got close enough to the truck to see who was inside. However, when she learned the truth, she was driven into intense grief and decided to seek revenge. Upon hearing this, the girls are stunned, and Ava grabs a flare gun from nearby, sparking a brutal struggle between them. We then see Ray approaching as Ava rushes to the deck and screams for help. Meanwhile, Danica and Stevie are locked in an intense fight, with the psycho girl gaining the upper hand. But before she can give the final blow, Ray arrives and points a gun at Stevie. He and Ava both beg her not to do this, but Stevie shows no mercy and brutally stabs Danica with her hook and throws her in the water. Seeing this, Ray shoots Stevie with a heavy heart. A distraught Ava can't stop crying over the loss of her best friend, but Ray assures her that it's finally over. Afterward, Ava calls Julie to inform her that she is at Ray's bar and that Stevie turned out to be the killer. But she can't understand how Stevie could have done all of this alone. Julie finds this suspicious and looks up the girl online, only to be shocked by a picture of Stevie and Ray together, revealing their close relationship. Meanwhile, Ava is with Ray, who removes his jacket, but Ava's eyes widen in horror when she notices a wound on his arm and recalls how she hurt the fisherman at the Bayside house. The terrified girl says she wants to go home, but the door is locked, and it doesn't take long for Ray to drop his facade. He then reveals that Stevie wanted to spare Ava, since she was the only one who tried to do the right thing that night, but now he has no choice. Ava is stunned that he killed his partner, but Ray shockingly reveals that he actually didn't, implying that Stevie is still alive. Without wasting any time, he begins attacking Ava, and the two get into an intense fight where Ava is badly injured. Shortly after, Julie arrives at the bar and finds Ava with a knife lodged in her back, so she assures the girl that the cops are on their way. At this moment, Ray also appears, so Julie demands to know why he is doing all this. Ray explains that he's trying to do the right thing because these kids ruined Stevie's life by taking away the only friend she had left. He also states that he feels betrayed by the town of Southport, which has done everything it can to erase the legacy of the 1997 killings to attract new residents. Upon hearing this, Julie is stunned, and Ray reveals his plan to blame everything on her, claiming she's the one who lost her mind. And then, when the deranged man is about to strike her, Ava shoots him from behind with a harpoon and finally ends his pathetic life. In the final scene, Danica washes up on the shore, barely conscious but alive, where a group of locals discover her and rush her to the hospital. After her recovery, she reunites with Ava, and the two escape to a quiet beach to eat some food and discuss their summer so far. The movie concludes with Ava revealing that Stevie is still alive, and the girls joke that they must kill her before she hunts them down first. Okay guys, thanks for watching. See you again in the next video.